Welcome to another episode of Career Library, the place where real people talk about real-life careers. Now let me introduce to you your host in the red trunks, weighing in at 220 pounds, the lean, mean, colorful commentator and intricate interviewer, the awesome and entrepreneurial Chris Hold the Phones, it's Jones. Welcome to another episode of Career Library. I'm your host, Chris Jones, and today we've got a very special guest with us. Daryl Creacy has a very interesting background, entrepreneur, was a helicopter pilot, has done some really great things, and so I'm excited to talk to him today a little bit about his history and what he's doing now to make a living. And so without further ado, we got Daryl Creacy. Thank you, Daryl, so much for being on our show today.
Good to be here, Chris.
Yes, sir.
Good to see you.
It's a long time. Little known fact, Daryl and I had a radio show many years ago.
The Christian Network.
Yes, a long time ago.
It was fun.
It was fun. So yes, but no, I've known Daryl for quite a long time, and he's a great guy, and so excited. So Daryl, just share with us a little bit, our listeners, a little bit about your background, your childhood, where you went to high school and school and stuff. Yes.
Yeah, I was born in 1966 here in Houston.
Okay.
But my parents got divorced, so when I grew up kind of partially in Corpus Christi and partially up here, back and forth with my mom and dad.
Okay.
I went to school down there, and actually I wound up dropping out of high school in the 12th grade. So I'm a high school dropout.
High school dropout.
Yeah,
wow.
But I did get my GED, and I joined the Coast Guard when I was 18 years old.
Okay.
So I have a degree now. I went to college, but
Okay.
my mom is Mexican, and my dad was an Irish bricklayer.
Okay.
And we lived in a 1,000 square foot house. 6 of us, sometimes 8 of us at a time, lived there, and 1 bathroom. No air conditioning till I was like 12 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was. I didn't grow up with a lot of money, let's put it like that. We did a lot of work.
Okay.
Being a bricklayer, we just worked all the time.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 2 sisters that are my sisters, but I've had extensive stepsisters and stepbrothers that I grew up with. So big family, but my core family was just 2 sisters from my mom and dad. I did get out of high school here in Houston when I joined the Coast Guard. I joined here in 1985 and went straight to boot camp and did my deal there. So I started out as an E1, and if you don't know what an E1 is, it's the guy that's lower than snail slime. I mean, just if you're at the bottom of the bucket.
You're the maggot.
Yeah, and I think that really ingrained in me a work ethic.
Yes.
Because I know people now that I meet that they kind of grew up, had affluent, they had money and stuff like that, and they don't really have that work ethic. They don't know what to do when things stop. They don't know how to drum stuff up. You always got to be able to do something. So I kind of learned that when I was coming up, and then in the Coast Guard, that just taught you respect, for authority and how to handle yourself around peers of all different flavors. And you're all worm dirt, you're all snail slime. So when you go through something like that, it gives you a great respect for everybody, because you're all cleaning toilets, you're all having to stand in line, you're all having to do all this stuff, and you're just a servant essentially. You're just doing your job. I kind of got lucky in that I always had a motivation to do better in the Coast Guard, so I would take all my tests early and strive to do things. And I'll back up, just what really motivated me to join the Coast Guard instead of anything else was when I was 10 years old in Corpus Christi in 1976. The Coast Guard had a demonstration at this fair that they have called Bay Fest. It was the first year they ever had it, and I remember seeing this helicopter do the demonstration. They came out of Corpus, went to the bay, and we were watching, and they hovered and they lowered a guy down and picked up a dude. I was 10 years old.
10 years old. Okay.
Yeah, and I said, man, if I ever joined the military, that would be cool. And then by the time I was 19, 20 years old, that's exactly what I was doing. So after that, it was just Coast Guard. I got married when I was 22 to a girl in the Coast Guard. We've since divorced, but I kept on striving. So at the age of, I think I was 24, I got selected to I was in Puerto Rico, that's where I was stationed.
Okay.
And I got selected to go to North Carolina to work in a specialty, which was vibration analysis. So it was only 2 of us in the whole Coast Guard Aviation that did vibration analysis, me and my chief. And so we traveled around the country, Alaska, everywhere we had Coast Guard stations, and we taught people how to do reduction of vibration in dynamic systems, which is aircraft. So I became a real specialist there.
Okay.
At that job, I kept trying to do more and more, and an opportunity came up for what was called a PEP program. It was a pre-commissioning program for enlisted personnel. I fit the bill because I was going to college. I had enrolled in college, and my college was in Virginia, so I was driving after work from North Carolina to Virginia, which was about 80 miles.
Wow.
Each way to attend class a couple times a week, but I was in a bachelor's program. So this program that I finally got selected for said you had to be in college, you had to be in a 4-year program, you had to be an E5, and you were able to apply. But I had to get a letter from my school saying that I could finish my degree in 2 years. Well, it was only my first year. So I went up there and I said, can I finish if I take like double and triple load? They're like, well, yeah, you can. I said, just put it on the paper then. They're like, well, most people don't do that. I said, I need that to be put on paper, and I need to be able to do it so I can submit.
Right.
They're like, there's no reason you can't, just got a commitment. So I did that, and I got selected for that program. That's how I wound up in officer candidate school and subsequently flight school, and then flying helicopters in the Coast Guard.
Okay. Do you still have a license to fly helicopters?
I do. I'm an airline transport pilot, CFI, and all that stuff. I can still fly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, the airline pilot that we had on here a couple weeks ago, he was talking. It's just basically like getting a driver's license.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. That never.
The only thing that happens is you age out.
You age out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before I got my pilot's license, though, when I in the Coast Guard, my school, my first job that I went to in training was to be an aircraft mechanic.
Okay.
So in North Carolina, I went to school to be an aircraft mechanic, got stationed in Puerto Rico, then went back to North Carolina to serve as an aircraft mechanic in that vibration analysis deal. So I was a mechanic before I was ever a pilot.
Okay.
And that really helped with systems and things like that, and I kind of got an engineering mind.
Mm-hmm.
So after I went to officer candidate school, I went through flight training in Pensacola, Florida, where all the naval flight guys go, and the Marine Corps, they all go there.
Right.
I graduated high there, and then I went to Corpus Christi. That was my first station as a pilot.
Okay.
So I talked about it in here in just a couple of minutes. That was 10 years of my 20-year career.
20 years.
Yeah, here I am a pilot, so I started flying. And again, I wanted to do more. So I put in for one of the more elite programs, which was the aeronautical engineering program. And I got accepted to that program and became an aeronautical engineering officer.
Wow.
So I had a bachelor's degree in aeronautics. I was an aeronautical engineering officer. I was a helicopter pilot. I was a flight instructor. And I did all this stuff in the Coast Guard, and I don't do any flying now.
So did you retire from the Coast Guard?
I did.
You
I
spent
retired.
your 20 years in?
Mm-hmm.
That's
I
great.
did
Yes.
In 2003, I moved to Houston in 2001
Okay.
from Corpus. And I came up here to be the aeronautical engineering assistant. So I came up here and we rented an apartment for a few months, I guess, and then I bought a house. And when I bought the house, we were going through the whole process of buying, right? And I had houses before, but I never had them inspected. So this house, the real estate agent's like, oh, you gotta have it inspected. You need to have it inspected. I'm like, well, I kind of know what I'm looking at. They're like, no, you gotta have it inspected. I said, all right, well, I'll pay for it. So some dude comes over to the house, and he's there for like an hour and a half. And back then they just wrote it on paper. There was no pictures or anything. He charged me $375, and I'm like,
He didn't do nothing.
I'm like, wait a minute. How many of these can a guy do in a day? What does it take to get your license?
There's that entrepreneurial
yeah, I'm like,
side,
I'm
yes.
like, what? I like that business model right there. And by 2003, I had my license, and I had opened up my own business.
So what does it take? So you're a licensed inspector, or you're licensed by the state, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So what is the process to get that license? Do I have to have a college degree to get that license?
No.
Okay.
No.
So somebody coming out of high school could actually go out and study this program
Yep.
and get the license. Can you explain what
Sure.
that process is?
Sure. There's two routes, actually. You can do what's called the education route and then challenge the state and national tests. So it used to be, till very recently, they had changed from 126 hours to like 400 and something hours of education to be able to qualify to sit for this test, and you had to do all these ride-alongs and stuff. Now they've brought it back to like, I think it's 210 hours, But you can take all the classes, you can pay for them, you can study, you can do all of that, pass the classes, challenge the state test, and challenge the national test, and you can become a professional real estate inspector.
Okay.
That's one route. The other route is to go and be an apprentice. So you find somebody that's been in the business for a long time and is able to do that for you. They take you on as an apprentice, they train you. You still have to do classes, but not as many, and you still have to take both the tests. But once you do that, it's a little faster.
Okay.
You become a real estate inspector.
Okay.
So it goes apprentice, real estate inspector, and then professional inspector, and then what I call a journeyman inspector that can train people. So there's a couple of routes there. I challenged it and I did the testing. I just became a professional. At that point, though, I didn't really know what I was doing, even though I had a license.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like I have an insurance background. You walk out of the test, and I'm like, I know the facts about stuff, but how does this play out to explaining it to a real person?
Yeah. And how I coach guys, I get calls all the time because everybody's interested, or a lot of people are interested in becoming an inspector. So they'll look on the list and they'll call, hey, I'm interested in this. I said, okay, I'll pose you with this scenario. How about if I just give you your license? Here, you got it. Now what? What do you mean? I said, who's going to hire you? Do you have a license to fly drones? Do you do pest control, termite inspections? Do you have the equipment? So you got to be thinking, but you also have to think way in front of that, because a lot of people that actually get into the inspection business, they wash out because they don't know the business side of it.
Right.
They can go out and kind of do inspections, but they don't know how to make money.
Right.
That's the hard part.
That's the hard part. Yes. So, so you spent this 3 years getting your license. Did you work with somebody as a journeyman, or you just went out and challenged the test?
I just went out and challenged the test.
Okay.
I got a lot of the credits granted to me from the state, because I had been in construction basically my whole life, and when I was some of the jobs I had before I was an engineer in the Coast Guard were facilities maintenance. So I managed 40,000 square foot hangars, all the systems involved. So I had a lot of education. Okay. And I just challenged the test. But my first inspection I got was from some Coast Guard guy that I knew was moving into the state. And I'm like, okay, well, this is my first inspection. I didn't really know how to do inspections. I had met an inspector at the gym.
The gym.
And he was
That's where I mean,
nice guy.
Most of my contacts are from the gym.
He was awesome. He was really super faithful, religious guy, and his name was Tunga. And I said, Tunga, I got my license and everything, because I talked to him in the gym every morning. How's it going?
Yeah.
I said, I got my first inspection. Would you come help me? He's like, yeah, I'll come and I'll show you what we do.
That's
so
great.
After that, it's just been, and that was in 2003.
Wow.
So yeah, I've been doing it about 18 years now.
So you've been doing the inspections. So in the early years, you talked about making money. With the military background, you have those organizational skills. I was in the military myself, so I understand that aspect of it. And what was kind of like, so as you began the journey, you just kind of started with this guy, one guy. How much did you make on that first deal? Do you know?
I don't even know how much I charge him. Probably $250.
$250
because I'm learning.
Right. And so when did the reality set in for you that I need to become profitable? I guess when you started out through those first couple of years, kind of go into that, because there's a lot of people that want to call themselves entrepreneurs, but they don't understand the dirty, gritty part of those beginning years of all the hours and all that stuff. If you wouldn't mind just sharing with us that.
The one thing I think about anybody that's working right now, they're in a job and they say, well, I want to go do this. Be real careful, because I was able to do the inspection route while I had a job.
Okay, so you were still making.
I didn't need the money to survive.
All right.
And I would caution anybody that tries to step into something when they don't really have that income stream behind it. We did in 2014. We bought a pest control franchise. Okay. And I don't know. It didn't make it, but it was for many reasons. Part my reason, part the franchise guys. We wound up getting the franchise back for free with no encumberment, and now it's doing very well. But I didn't look at the backside of that. And the one thing that I would tell anybody in any business, don't buy it, don't commit to it, don't spend any money until you absolutely have to have it. because I had gone through a couple of business models. I'm an author also.
Okay.
So right before I retired in the Coast Guard, we wrote a book. I actually wrote 2 books. First book I wrote was by Publish House, and it went through all of that, and it was great. But I had this vision that I was going to make a bunch of money writing books, and we had a business model with the backside. It was teaching people how to build computers, and then we were going to sell them the packages.
Okay.
Well, we found we got offices, we got a phone system, and we were all ready to do this. Well, the phone didn't ring, so we just it didn't work, and that just completely flopped. I've had 3 or 4 of those that flopped, and a lot of money down the drain.
Mm-hmm.
But like they say, if you're not failing, you're not trying.
Right.
So it really took a while for us to get to making money. So don't quit your job until you have to, until your side hustle becomes all encompassing.
Mm-hmm.
You're making more money over there, or you see the vision. If I quit my job, I can devote more time to this and increase the income.
Mm-hmm.
But don't quit your job until you have that income and the real good vision on how you're going to make it.
That's good advice. And so, with the side hustle thing, I know that a lot of people that I've talked to in life, they get really frustrated because they're trying to work out, especially if they have a family, trying to work out that family aspect of things. You're getting pulled away.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to do the side hustle. You're also working your full-time job. Your mind on your full-time job isn't really there because you no longer want to climb that corporate ladder. You're wanting this thing to work. And so kind of share with your experience of how that happened in your life.
Oh yeah, that's the one thing that an entrepreneur has to come to grips with, is that you're going to be working about half a year. You pick the 12 hours a day you want to work.
Right.
Every day. Mine's about 14 hours every day. That's Saturdays and Sundays.
Yes, sir.
My kids are mostly out of the house. We still have one young man, but he's in school and stuff. So we don't have any kids in the house. But that's a hard thing, and it takes a toll on a relationship. You have to be real careful with that one, because if your spouse and your partner doesn't see the vision that you're committing all this time to, it can bring stress on a relationship. I mean, I've been divorced once for many reasons, but that was part of it. Just I was never around. I was always gone. In the Coast Guard, I was like that too. I was married to her for 18 years, and we were in the Coast Guard together. I was constantly deployed. I was never around, and I understand her position. And then I go into this entrepreneur thing. Well, I was in the Coast Guard when I did this. So not only was I in the Coast Guard,
so you were in the Coast Guard in 2003.
Yes, I didn't retire until 2005.
Okay.
So I was developing this business, and it was a lot of stress, and your significant other's thinking, well, what's the most important thing here? Is it me and the family, or is it this?
Why is he doing this?
And the entrepreneur's always thinking, well, this is for my family.
Right.
This is so we can do better.
Yeah.
You better make sure you're doing better.
And I think that's something that my wife and I we talked about all that before we started the businesses that we were involved in, and so it's basically you as the entrepreneur, whether you're a female or male in a relationship, you have to explain to your partner in detail, this is a long play. There's going to be like these 2-3 years of just life's going to be hard, and then hopefully if everything goes according to plan, we're going to be at this position financially, and also we'll be able to free up time in the future because we'll have this availability. And so it's just kind of playing that not selling, but telling your spouse and your children, especially the children too, so that they have a working understanding. I think that gets left off a lot of times.
Absolutely. And any entrepreneurial endeavor works so much better if you're on the same page.
Yes.
If I've been in the situation where you're not on the same page, and it brings so much stress to a situation, it's hard. The relationship I'm in now, I'm married again, but she manages our pest control company, and we have assistants, but I manage the inspection company, and it works great because we're all on the same goal.
Right. So, okay, well, good deal. And then, so how long did it take you to become profitable in the side hustle, I guess? Because you had how many years did you have left in the Coast Guard before you retired?
I had 2 years.
2 years.
And you got to watch out for variables. Okay, so when I retired, I thought, number one, this book corporation that I got, it's going to make it. I'm doing inspections also. I never stopped doing inspections the whole time. I was always there, but I wasn't super doing a lot of them. So I was making money because it's a very Another thing to look at when you get into a business is capital and overhead and stuff like that. And that's, like I said, don't buy it till you need it.
Right.
Be really certain that if you go out and you believe in this thing and you max out your credit cards or you borrow from your grandma or whatever you're doing, you're in debt, and it better work out, because if it doesn't, you're in debt. So try not to go in debt the best you can unless it's super duper solid, something that's been done before, and you can see that if I do A, B, and C, D's going to come. But if you don't know those things and it's not a real solid deal. So in 2008, my business went to zero.
Wow.
Because of the stock market crash and the housing bubble.
Okay, because nobody was buying houses.
2008 washed out a ton of inspectors. They just, and real estate agents, and everything changed in 2008 in the real estate market. It just, Dodd-Frank, the whole craziness happened, and it came to a complete, absolute halt. So you're looking at him, he's looking at you, and he's like,
what do we do?
What are we going to do? I wound up going back to flying helicopters because I was a licensed helicopter. I was still, I'm not telling you everything, but I was flying helicopters at the time for a corporation out of Baytown. It was a private corporation, and I was a corporate pilot, and I flew their little helicopter for them.
Okay.
So I was still able to do inspections and fly helicopters and all that stuff, but when the inspections stopped, I was like, okay, got to go back to flying full time now. So I went to Lifelight, and I got hired by Lifelight here in Houston. So I flew for Lifelight for 7 years until the housing market cleaned itself back up. So that's what I'm saying. If you put all your eggs in one basket, the basket could have a hole in it, or develop a hole, and you just don't know it's coming. So be real careful. Putting your head in the noose, because the stool might get yanked out from under you.
And that's something I learned in with the insurance side of things when I opened up my agency. We had a premium increase that took place in 17 into 16, 17, and I just started in 16, and it ran off a lot of my business, and my eyes were open that I needed multiple streams of income at that point. And then I started last year I started the Christmas light business, which has been very successful, but I've been able to branch off into some other things too. And so with that, that reality is, yes, you need a backup plan to the backup plan. And that's kind of the military aspect too. That's ingrained in you when you're in the military is, okay, well, what's your backup plan if this fails? What's plan B, what's plan C, what's plan G? You're thinking in those terms. I hear these guys, I listen to motivational YouTube every morning when I get up, when I'm cooking breakfast and stuff. And I always hear these guys, I don't know why you have a plan B. I'm like, you better have a plan B. Yeah. I can't remember which one of the actors he's talking about. Oh, when I went, if I failed, that was it. I was like, well, if you got a family and kids and wife, that isn't an option. That's not reality. And I think that sometimes people buy into that, like, oh, I don't need a plan B. No, you need a plan B all the way down to Z if you can.
You're 1 in 1,000. Let's talk to the other 999 that didn't make it.
The other actors that fell on their face and working somewhere else. But it's the entrepreneurial world is very interesting. And so so you had a little bit of an advantage because you had the pilot thing going on, and then you had the inspector side. So you with being an inspector, so realistically, I know I've heard a couple numbers. I think one was like 250 and one was like 375. So realistically, how much, and I don't want to get into all your business, if somebody was starting off in the inspector world, all right, they went through the journeyman process, how much startup are they going to need to get started? What type of equipment are they going to need?
It's a low overhead business. That's why I like it so much. It's there. You don't have any storefront or anything like that. Your office out of your house, and your truck is essentially your office and your equipment. So we did a business model for it, and it's about $10,000, and that's getting a truck, it's getting an infrared camera, getting your drone license, stuff like that. Okay. So for about $10,000, you can equip yourself. It's not really that expensive. All right. The education is like $2,000 or $2,400. Of
that 10,000?
No, so that would probably be on top.
Okay, so about 12, 13.
You're about 12, 13. But you don't spend it like that, because you get your education, you buy your tools. It takes a few months to at least get in the business. Okay. After that, you're not going to be able to charge as much as everybody else, or as established guys, because you're not known and everything. You're going to have to do some friend favors and stuff. You got to get in, because the hardest part is being able to sell yourself and getting bought, because there's so many other people out there, and the business is very relationship built, and you're not dealing with buyers, you're dealing with real estate agents,
right?
Because they're in between you and that buyer.
Right.
Now you can, if you look at advertising, you never hear a commercial about inspections, ever. You real estate agents advertise, but you never hear an inspection commercial. You hear plumbing commercials and pest control, but not an inspection. Why? Because it doesn't matter what you tell, really. I mean, you'll get a certain percentage by advertising, but you'll spend a lot, believe it.
Yeah.
But if you advertise and you market and you create relationship with real estate agents, they're the gatekeeper to that client. So that's why we were talking before the show went on, as far as going to these marketing groups. If it isn't a real estate agent marketing group, that really is not a benefit for me to go spend an hour there. It's not. And they said you got to go twice a week or what? It's like no. And it's everybody wants to sell you something constantly. Everybody, because that's their livelihood. They're selling you these marketing groups because they're making money off of them. And everything. Be very, very targeted. So if somebody started in this business, start relationships early with real estate agents. You may get a few friends and family that will hire you to do their inspection, but the agents are the big deal. The base price for those guys coming into the market like that aren't doing the higher stuff, it's probably like $375 to $400 on a base house, on just a regular house.
It's regular. Okay.
If you could build yourself up to doing 3 or 4 a week, there's your $1,600 a week. That's good money. You can make it on that.
Yeah.
You just got to get to that point. And I would recommend anybody getting in this business, create a relationship with another inspector. Somebody that will mentor you, help you out. If you're coming through the apprentice program, you're going to wind up working for that guy. That's why he's got you. You're going to work for him. He's going to feed you, and he's going to develop you and everything else. That's probably the best way. If you go the professional route, the full education, challenge, test, all that stuff, I would still create a relationship with inspectors, and maybe join some of the inspector groups, like Terry and Taprea and stuff like that, because you want to be with those guys, because if they see something in you, they'll help you, and you need help.
Yeah.
People get in this business really need help. You're not going to be able to feed your family right off the bat. You're just not. I've been here a long time. I've had 6 or 7 guys try and fail with me. I had one guy that was doing pretty good and decides he doesn't want to do it anymore. So it's difficult, but it's a good job if you can. It's a good business if you can get into it and make it work.
Okay. So do you have people that work under you as inspectors, or is
I
it
do.
pretty much all you?
No, I do. I did up till last week. I had one guy that I had trained that was working for us, but he decided to go do some other things.
Okay.
He didn't like pest control.
He didn't like the pest control.
So we do combination. We have a pest control company and inspection, so our inspectors do both, and he didn't like that.
So what's the name of your pest control company?
We are actually a veteran-centric company. So the overarching corporation and motto is My MVet Company. My MVet, American Veteran, My MVet Company. And it took us a long time to actually get that. It was hard to do, but we got it. And we are corporations. We have 2 corporations, Creacy Co. and My MVet Co. Okay. So those are under kind of one umbrella, and then we market it that way as My MVet Company, because we have vision for future things. We're actually doing more stuff now, and we have a footprint, a national footprint that we'd like to roll out, but that'll be in the future a little bit.
Sir. Yes, sir. And so, so with the inspection service, starting out and making, if you can network properly over the course of the first couple of years, you're looking at making about $1,600 a week on the good side.
Yeah, if you can get 4. Yeah,
if you can get 4 a week. And then, so on the top end side, now you've been through all of that. So I don't want to get into all your business and everything. What realistically could you expect 10 years down the road in the inspection side?
As long as the market holds.
As long as the market.
As long as the market holds. In 2020, with essentially one inspector, we did $250,000.
$250,000. Okay.
And that was just on the inspection side.
And that's with low overhead. You're just paying for gas and.
I do have an assistant.
Yeah.
And then we pay for the regular stuff, insurance, and
all that good stuff.
Memberships and everything else.
And the marketing, whatever else you do on that aspect. Okay.
Now the pest control, we lost $250,000 when we bought in the first 5 years of the franchise. So now we're making money on it.
Now you're making money on it.
But yeah, so you see how it goes.
So yeah, oh no, I absolutely understand all the startup costs and stuff like that. And so yeah, but you're always looking at that long play. You're looking at that. Okay, what does 5 years? What does 10 years look like? Am I going to be able to walk away and pay somebody else to run it for me? And looking at those aspects. So with the I know that you got these two businesses going on, and I know that you work a lot of hours, so I already know the answer to this question. So realistically, what could I expect? If I was an inspector, first of all, how many hours a week am I putting into that business? And if I was starting off a pest control business, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second, how many hours a week? I'm looking at work-life balance. What are we looking at here?
All work, no life.
All work, no life.
Yeah, pretty much, especially when you're getting it started. So the guy that starts out in the inspection business, right, he doesn't have any jobs and everything. He needs to be marketing daily. He needs to be going talking to people. He needs to be driving around. He's got to get a decent truck. You want to look professional.
Right.
So he'll probably have some life because he's got no jobs. But as soon as it starts kicking off, phone rings at 9 o'clock at night. You may be sitting there watching TV or whatever you're doing. You got to get up. That's the one thing I'll tell any entrepreneur in any business: answer the phone. If you don't answer your phone within 2 rings, maybe 3, if they have to hang up, they're calling somebody else. I actually had guys that I was trying to inspectors went, well, I'll give you inspections as they come in, and I can't get to them. I'll call you. They don't answer their phone.
Right, and they know what you call it. So they know it's money on the line.
Real estate agent. I get the call at 9 o'clock at night, and they're like, oh, I gotta have this inspection, tomorrow.
Right.
I'm like, I'm booked. So I need to have somebody to dump that on. These guys gotta answer their phone. If they don't answer their phone, the business just walks away.
Yeah, they're going to find somebody else because that realtor wants to close.
Real estate agents are notorious.
Right.
They don't answer their phone. I'm like, why don't you answer your phone? They're waiting on a text because they want to know the answer before they talk to you.
Right, yeah. No, I noticed that with my real estate agent when I bought my house last year. I would have to text her, and then she would get back to me.
Those agents for real estate, they're supposed to give you at least 3 to choose from. They're not allowed to refer just one.
Yeah.
Well, they'll give you the buyer that list. Well, they're going to probably call the first one, unless they like the name or whatever pops out.
Right.
They're going to call the first one. You don't pick up. They hang up and call the next one.
Yeah.
I've left my phone in the office, went to the bathroom, come back. It rang. I called them right back. Oh, we already got somebody else. No, seriously, just like that. So I have an office assistant who answers the phone.
Does a great job too.
Kirsten.
Yeah, she does an awesome job. So she always answers the phone when I call over there 5 minutes.
Here's a funny one that nobody ever thinks of. So that guy that he's coming up in the inspection business. He's been in 5 years, and he's answering the phone. He doesn't have money to pay an assistant, so he's got to do everything himself. His wife doesn't want to help him because she's too busy.
Yeah.
So he's doing everything. So he's laying under houses, answering the phone. He's in the attic. He's on the roof.
Yeah.
There was a point where I had that phone number for 25 years since we had cell phones. I had the same cell phone number.
Yeah.
I had to give that to Kirsten.
Wow.
With all my 25 years of contact.
Personal relationships and stuff like that.
The phone will still ring. They're like, hey, this is such and such. Where's Daryl? I haven't talked to him in 12 years.
Yeah.
It's like, she's like, well, this isn't his phone right now, but I'll give it to you. So I had to give the whole phone up and get another one so people would stop calling me.
Wow.
Because I couldn't do inspections and talk on the phone, do the admin part.
Right, yeah. So very interesting. Yeah, that is a crucial part of business, is that because that's what you are. If you don't have a storefront, there ain't people walking in. Your only communication really is that verbal communication or text or email. And so you better be on top of it. Like with emails, I tell my staff, as soon as they email them back, get the answer, get it back to them. Yeah. And so if that's what you want to have your preferred meaning of contact, way of contacting and connecting with your customers, set that precedence, that, okay, we get the email real quick. If you're not getting the email real quick, your customer's going to call you all day long with little things. And so you can eliminate a lot of your problems through email or text in that aspect. But in your world on the sales side, yes, I could imagine that, 3 o'clock in the morning, you're answering. Somebody works night shift.
I was just thinking about the people that want to get in this business. I would say, deliver pizzas.
Yeah.
If you need some money, find something that you can do off hours or something it's not a career,
Right.
If you want to get into this, find something that pays the bills that you can do this during the
You can
day.
answer the phone, and and have the ability and freedom to answer
Go
the
to
phone.
school and everything else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because you're not going to feed your family real quick.
Okay, yeah. So with the pest control side of things, education, training, background, what do you need to get involved in
That's
pest
a lot
control?
faster. You have to start with a company. You have to
Okay.
be, so it goes apprentice, technician, and then certified applicator.
So you have to actually go
Be
work for a
apprentice.
pest
Correct.
control company.
Yeah, you
Okay.
have to have somebody sponsor you into pest control.
Okay.
Bring you in as a apprentice. And it's a lot faster
Okay.
on the getting to work part, but you're going to be working for somebody else, not yourself. If somebody had their eyes set on managing their own pest control company, the minimum they would have to do is about 14 months. So
Okay.
you'd have to do your training, get your technician license under another company.
Mhm.
After 1 year, you can apply to become a certified applicator. You do that, you pass those tests. Now you're a CA, which is certified applicator.
Mhm.
Now you can apply for a license, a business license, on your own. So you could get into pest control fairly quickly, and you need to learn anyhow. So if you don't know anything about pest control, you need that 14 months to learn how to do pest control at least.
Right.
And it's a pretty easy little footprint to be your own pest control guy. It's about the same amount of money as far as equipment. You need a truck, you need a spray rig. It's not a whole bunch, and you could go out and be Chris Jones pest control guy. You just your own.
Right.
It's probably a lot easier to sell too than in the inspection stuff because it's not a higher level of service. It's just killing bugs,
Right.
and it's actually kind of fun. The business part's challenging because again you're trying to feed your family and the hustle. But as far as doing the jobs, they're just you meet people and you kill their bugs. It's
Right.
not that hard.
So as far as profitability, you had mentioned that you took like a $250,000 loss in the first.
That was over a few years. It wasn't like
over a
all
few
at
years.
once.
So just kind of explain to me. I'm curious about
That
the
was
loss and
because-
why that happened.
It was a big mistake of mine because
Okay.
I told you that to open your own business you have to be a certified applicator, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, I wasn't. So the pest control thing came about like this. I got a cold call from a pest control company out of Waco, and they're like, "Hey, you're an inspector. Have you ever thought about opening a pest control business?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, I have. Okay, well,"
Yeah.
I said, "Call me." He gave me the whole spiel. I said, "Well, I don't ever make a decision right on the bag. So call me back Monday. Let's talk about it again." So he calls. He was a sales guy for this company.
Yeah.
So he calls me back, and I talk to him, and he tells me the ins and outs and all this other stuff. I said, "You know what? That sounds like a pretty good idea. Let me come up there and meet you guys." So I went to Waco and I met them, and I kind of liked the thing. And they weren't bad guys,
Right.
but they weren't big franchisers either. I was their first franchise.
Oh, wow.
Or their second.
So they sold you good.
Yeah, they sold me
You
great.
need to hire that guy.
Awesome. So I go up there and I meet. So I didn't have a certified applicator license. All I had was a technician license.
Okay.
Now I can own a business, but I can't operate one without a certified applicator. I got to have one.
You got to
on
have one on staff. Okay.
Mhm. So I met a guy up there, and I wound up partnering kind of with him. He didn't have any skin in the game though. It was all my money.
Okay.
He was going to be the applicator.
Okay.
And he was the guy that was going to go out and do the pest control.
Okay.
I'm like, oh great, this is great. Went out and bought brand new trucks and
Yeah.
all this stuff. And it was really my fault because I didn't stay on top of it. I didn't know what I was doing. I was doing inspections. I was flying helicopters because I was still flying for Life Flight at that time.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, this is great. I'm going to buy this business. This guy's going to manage it for me. I'm
Oh,
going to
wow.
do great.
Yeah, turnkey operation.
Here I am. At that point, I'm like 80 in debt. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. So over the next couple of years, I tried my best. I'm feeding it money, and he's not the greatest sales guy. He would tell me that right away. I'm not the greatest sales guy. It's like, oh man, what, I gotta hire a sales guy now? So there was a point where it got to be, it's like, I can't put any more money into this business. It's a loser.
Yeah.
I said, I gotta get out of this. I just can't do it anymore. And they were pretty cool. So we gave them back the franchise and what clients we had down here.
Right.
They're like, we'll operate it from Waco. Go ahead, operate it from Waco.
Yeah,
That's
good.
fine. I just want to be going.
Yeah.
I get a call about 6-8 weeks later.
Uh-huh.
They're like, listen, you can just have it back. We'll just let you out of all contracts and you can just take it
Okay.
back. And we'll just be completely
Because
done.
there's no way they can manage it from Waco.
But there was a stack of clients. It wasn't a big stack, but it was like 125, 150. Well, they're worth $500 a year. Okay, so there's
there's some money there, yeah.
150 grand, or 75 grand right there. And I'm like, and I didn't want to let them down. So my wife was in Hungary at the time. She's from Hungary.
Yeah.
And I called her, and she wasn't involved with any of my stuff really. She had all her other things going on, so she wasn't really involved. And I called her, and I said, they're going to give us the franchise back if we want it. And she's like, oh, well, that sounds kind of great. And I said, I'm not going to do it unless you manage it, period. You have to manage it day to day. You're going to be the managing director of the company. Otherwise, we're not going to do it. She's like, I can do that. I said, all right.
Okay.
So she came back on board, and we picked it back up. We rebranded it under the same license number. So now we're Ambat Pest Control.
Okay.
And we actually started making money. So that's good. And we've been making money for about the last year, not a ton, because the margins are kind of small.
Okay.
But as a footprint, as you're looking at it, each client, each customer is worth about $500 a year.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
10 of them, there's $5,000. 100 of them, there's $50,000.
Yeah.
You know, if you get 300 of them, there you go.
Yeah.
You know, it's good money, $500,000. So that's what you want to do, is you want to look at it like that.
Okay, so looking at that long term once again.
Mm-hmm.
And so to start up the pest control business, so let's say I've done my 14 months, I graduate high school, I decide this is the career choice for
Go
me.
to work for Orkin or Massey.
And I'm there for
whoever.
14 months, I go get my license,
Mm-hmm.
I've spent my $2,400, is that what it takes to get the licenses for that? Or
that was
for the inspection?
that was inspections. Whoever you go work for is probably going to pay for your license.
Okay.
And then once you get to be a CA, you may have to pay for that.
Okay.
Because you're not telling them you're planning on leaving and opening your own business.
Right, yeah. So yeah, you'll never get hired on.
You're right.
So you go work for Orkin or whatever, and so what is realistically, I mean, I've got a car, you know, I'm driving, I'm making a car payment every month, I'm working for Orkin. What other equipment am I going to need, or what is going to be startup costs? You don't have to go into all the details of all that stuff.
You know, besides the vehicle, that's the basic
That's the
expense.
biggest
And I would
expense.
recommend, if you're going to go into a business, don't go buy some junk car or truck, you know, and roll around and look like you're not. Look professional and look good. And a car payment's only $500 a month or whatever it is. A truck payment,
Right.
the kind of vehicles we drive are $400 and
Yeah.
$500 a month.
Right.
But it's a nice new vehicle and put stickers on it. So that's your biggest cost, so that's a payment. Rest of the equipment, really not that much. I mean, all you need is products and spray rigs. And if you spend another couple of grand without buying a big rig, say you buy a bigger rig that you put in your truck, which we don't really even use anymore.
Right.
If you got $5,000 into it, that's a lot.
Okay. Okay.
You could do it for that. I think
So-
my first rig I bought was like $2,200, and that's one of those that you put in the back of the truck and all that.
Yeah.
B&G, poles, this, that, equipment. Yeah, if you got $5,000, that would be a lot. And you don't have to buy it all at once either. Like
Right.
I said, you can kind of piecemeal it. along
as you go
get
through
there,
customer
get
to
closer.
customer. So yeah. So cool. So that's a very interesting business to get into. I mean,
Pest control is great.
It seems a lot easier to get involved in it to make money than to do the inspection side. The inspection side looks like it could be very
Those guys up in
complicated.
Waco are probably knocking down 2.5 a year or something
Yeah.
like that. But now
Yeah.
they got 13 trucks. You know, they're a bigger operation. But if you're a
Right.
one-man band,
Right.
this is how you measure it. That one client you have to visit them 4 times a year once you
Right.
get them established, because you're visiting quarterly.
Right.
Okay, so there's 4 stops.
Right.
If you got 100, you got 400 stops. There's
Right.
100 clients, there's 400 stops. Well, how many stops is that a day? 1.2.
1.2 because you got it, and that's 7 days a week.
Right, and 7
Yeah.
days a week. But say I want to do 3 stops a day. I'm not working the weekends, and I'm servicing 100 clients.
Right.
That's how you have to look at it. Yeah, that's how you
Okay.
measure it. It's like I got to visit them 4 times a year, and I make $500 a year off of this guy, and just go see how many you can get.
Okay. And then you just scalability. You just have to hire and license
Right.
apprentices under you. And
Scalability is, and like I said, don't buy it till you need it.
Right.
I'm a single operator. I'm doing
Right.
5-6 stops a day, 5 days a week. I'm maxed out. I'm having a
Mhm.
hard time taking time off. The phone keeps ringing. Now it's time for a truck and a tech. In the pest control business, though, truck and tech your income curve starts going up.
Mhm.
Truck and tech, man, it drops down rapidly because you're assuming a guy at $30,000 or $40,000 a year. You got to give him a new truck, a new rig.
Insurance. all
So
that stuff.
insurance, and then so it'll drops down dramatically, because remember, you're not making, if you're knocking
Mhm.
down, if you're grossing $100,000, and keeping 60, that's good after operating
Right.
costs. because you're operating on about a 30% margin, 30 to 40% margin. It drops down dramatically. You're gonna have to build it back up. You got to get him driving.
Yeah.
Unless you just want time off.
Right. Yeah.
Now he does your routes.
No, you have to buy the time off too. Yeah. So you're just buying the time off at that point. So.
And this is good stuff. I'm glad you're doing this because it makes people think.
Right. Yeah.
And think through their own business plans. And these young people should be.
Yeah. And you know, and I meet a lot of young folks that you know want to do stuff. So what advice would you give to a young single individual coming out of high school, thinking about going into pest control? How would you encourage them to take that scary step?
I would say measure it against what you know. So if you got an uncle that's making $1 million a year because he went through, he had 6 to 8 years of college and all that, and you're 18 years old, and then you got another guy, another uncle that's a roofer, and maybe a plumber, and look at them, and then look how fast you can get there, because becoming a plumber would take probably 4 or 5 years. I mean, they're a little harder to get into. Or you can just say, have that goal and have that real vision. And in pest control, if you do A/B, you can get in C. You can get to D relatively quickly. So don't be discouraged by saying, I'm going to commit 2-3 years to being in business and knocking down 60 or 70 grand a year, where my peers are still in college.
Right. That may not get a $40,000 a year job getting out.
Whatever, is it a marketable skill that they're getting? They're spending all this money to do it. As soon as they step out of college, they're in debt and they don't have a job.
Yeah.
If you spend your time and you grunt it out, I completely believe in the service business. And anything else that requires a license, licenses are easy to get. I mean, not easy, but you have to commit to them. Cosmetology, anything that requires a license, you can build a business out of anything that requires a license.
Right, because the Fed obviously stepped in at one point and said, you can't just be making money off this and you don't know what you're doing, because you become dangerous at that point.
Yeah, let's put it like this. There's some big inspection firms and big pest control companies locally. And if I hadn't gone into the military and I'd have known what I know right this second, I'd be a multimillionaire. Yeah. It wouldn't have been hard. I'd have a large firm. I'd have a large pest control firm, like Massey Services or something. So it's doable. Right. And if you're a licensed individual, somebody needs your service.
Yes.
Find those people and figure out how you're going to get to them and what it takes to get there. So the pest control is fairly easy footprint. I could write it down.
Yes. And then what advice would you give for a young man, young lady looking to launch their own business, and say it's pest control, and they're worried about what their friends would think?
Oh, I'd say compare yourself to the people around you, because the guys that are going to give you grief are the guys that are in college. Well, I'm in college for whatever. I mean, if it's STEM, or if there's a job afterwards, I mean, you're going to be a doctor. I get that.
Right. Yeah.
But there's a lot of doctors that don't make as much money as I do, and they were dead, and they work as much. And maybe will they get there? They might. But family practice guys and stuff like that, it's a grind just like everything else. Just because they got a DR in front of their name, doesn't mean they're happy, doesn't mean they're knocking down a lot of money. It's just be realistic.
Right.
Don't underestimate yourself that you can get it done, because if somebody else has done it, you can do it.
Right.
That's all there is to it. Keep your nose clean, and don't go into big debt to do it, because that's going to be hard, because you're digging yourself out of a hole every time.
Yes, sir.
Now you've got to work.
Yeah.
Because you got to pay the bills.
Yep. And so and that's one of the things with the young folks. They're tending to live at home a little longer, trying to grow up and get themselves out there. And I think that looking back, that would have been a perfect time to start a business, because you got mom and dad to feed you.
Kids.
You don't have to be. I mean, you're out working. Mom and dad ain't worried about where you're at, because you're out making money.
And there's no lightning strikes. I talk to people, we're into digital coins and this and that. And I got these giant eyes, and I said, well, good luck, but if you turn the switch off on you, your money's gone. Just remember that. Things that take time
get rich quick. It doesn't happen. Yeah.
And these businesses are grueling.
Yes.
Pest control is not sitting behind a computer.
Right.
It's dragging a 150-foot
Out
hose
there in the
around
heat.
a house, climbing on roofs, and
Yes.
chasing squirrels in attics, and
Yeah.
you know, it's a grind. But you know, at the end of the day, when you get home, you're like, hey, you know what? I went out there, I sweated, I did my job, I put some money
Yeah.
in the bank, and it's worthwhile.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know that because I have you all at the house there to do the pest control, and it's great to get all them spiders and stuff out of my garage.
Yeah, and do a good job. You know?
It's great that I go out there and there's no mosquitoes. Really enjoy that. My wife really enjoys it too. So, yes, sir. So we're getting about 50 minutes into this. So what I like to do is I like to close out our segment with this question.
Okay.
So if you could put something on a billboard in front of every high school in the United States of America, what would that billboard say and why?
It would say, be realistic
Be realistic.
and choose your path wisely.
Okay.
I think that's it, because as a helicopter pilot in the Coast Guard, I used to talk to high school kids all the time. And in America, the American dream has kind of been pulled out from under us in a way. It's been sold, essentially.
Yes.
Home ownership,
Yeah.
2008.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things about the American dream that have been altered. If you look at, this isn't the billboard thing, I'm just kind of trying to tell you where I'm coming from. College has been commercialized.
Yes.
It's not about education as much anymore as it is football games and money, believe it or not. And the federal government has subsidized it through the student loan program. So be realistic. If you're going to study psychology, you really need to know how many jobs are out there for psychology, what is my barriers to entry, and things like that. You don't want to go spend $150,000 to get a psychology degree to find out you can't get a job, number one, and you really don't like that. So I would say be realistic. Don't go into debt, and find your own path to the money, you know, essentially, and do it early.
Right.
Because so many people want to go, and it's middle class and higher class have a harder time with this, being realistic, because they have means, or they've been taught you're going to go to college. I'm not saying college is bad, but a larger percentage of the college degrees and college graduates are bad. I know guys that are delivering pizzas that have degrees.
Yes.
And they're like, well, can I come to work for you? It's be realistic. That's what be realistic. That's probably the tagline. Be realistic, choose wisely, do a job that's got a license if you don't have anything else. I digress back. But when I used to talk to those high school guys, I would go and I said, if you got college paid for and that's your goal, and you're not, you can just go do that, go do that. But if you're in the 12th grade, in the middle of the 12th grade, you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do, and I don't have any money, and my parents don't have a bunch of money, and I don't want to go into debt. Well, that's kind of where I was. I was like, I knew I was going to have to work. One way or the other, I was going to have to work. I said, well, I'll join the Coast Guard, and I'll go work for a few years, learn what I'm doing, get paid to learn, and get some college benefit or get some benefits, and then get out. Well, I never really got out.
Right.
Because I just kept on doing better things, and I became a pilot and stuff. But you can join the military, or you can make a decision to get into something that has a realistic goal. Kind of
right.
Because if you say you do pest control for that 14 months, because you had this goal of being a pest control owner company,
right,
and you find out you really don't like pest control, then you can do something else. You've only got 14 months, and you got paid to learn.
Right.
So go do something else. But if you commit to college and you do 2 years and you figure out you don't like whatever it is, basket weaving, here you are 20 years old or 21 or whatever you are, you got some debt and you still don't have a marketable skill.
Right. Yeah.
And you're not prepared for a business because you don't know what you're doing anyhow.
Yeah, you might be making a mortgage payment and you don't have any income coming in.
Be realistic, set a good goal that's attainable, and don't go in debt.
I like it. I like it. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us your wisdom,
Anytime.
Daryl. I've really enjoyed having you today, and I think that our listeners will very much be appreciative of
I
this.
got to go do pest control.
You got to
after
do
this.
pest control.
And then I got to go do an inspection, and then another inspection.
There you go. There you go. So, yeah, at the end of the day, it's about how much money you're going to make.
True.
It really is.
People with money don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
People that don't have money,
Oh, I know.
they get it.
I know. I like what Pitbull said one time. He said, "Thank you for the award, but my kids can't eat awards."
That's right.
You can have all the degrees on medals on your wall, but your kids can't eat those.
I like to tell people
yeah.
the only color that matters to me is green.
Green. Yep.
It's true.
So, well, I mean that's what creates your living, your lifestyle. Everything falls down to that end goal of money. I mean,
And real quick about these two businesses we were talking about.
yeah.
I see all different people at a certain time in their life when they're buying a house,
Yeah.
especially with the inspections. And then they always turn into pest control people.
Yeah.
They're always happy. Most of them are happy, but it's always a good time. So you're interacting with people when they're doing something really good in their life,
Mhm.
as opposed to Life Flight. I was involved with people when they're worst day of their
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
These are good times, and everybody's the same, believe it or not. I deal with Africans, people from India, you name it. I can't even name them all,
Yeah.
day to day. And it's good to glean their culture, and they're always happy to see me, and
Yeah.
I'm always happy to see them.
Yeah.
So it's been really great. Even during the COVID, we were still out there. We were essential, so we were doing our job the whole time.
Good. So COVID didn't knock all that out.
Mhm.
So yeah. Well, good deal. Well, thank you once again, Daryl, for being on here with us.
Yes, sir.
Really appreciate
My
it.
pleasure.
And so, if somebody wanted to get in contact for the pest control side, what number would they call? Or
Well, really, if they just go to myamvetco.com or just type in Amvet Company, it should come up. But myamvetco, and it gives them a little tree. They can select pest control, or they can select inspections, because that's our umbrella.
okay. And if there's realtors out there that are interested in the inspection side,
Yeah,
watching our
they
show?
can still go there and get a hold of me.
Okay. All right. So either way,
Yeah.
so through the amvetco.com.
myamvetco.com.
myamvetco.com. All right. Well, thank you once again, listeners, for being part of the Career Library. Hope this segment helped you out. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, I'd encourage you to do that. To follow our show, if you're on YouTube, please smash that like button so that our show will be promoted through the Google algorithm. And this is Chris Jones signing off.
I got money busting out the money clip. Make a call and hit another lick. Yeah. Turn a 10-piece to a 20 quick. I got money busting out the money clip. Make a call and hit another lick. Someone get the money counter, I can keep on thumbing it. Turn a 10-piece to a 20 quick. I got money busting out the money clip. Make a call and hit another lick. Someone get the money counter, I can keep on thumbing it. Okay, I'ma hit for 20 off a laptop. In a Zoom meeting, making money is my backdrop. Ballpoint base hit harder than a slap shot. Flew out my baby, told her ride me like I'm Epcot. Whoa, I've been doing road on the go. Get a bag and flip it, that's for sure. Yeah, for sure. That was never talk about nothing. Turn it down and go get you some money. Turn a 10-piece to a 20 quick. I got money busting out the money clip. Make a call and hit another lick. Someone get the money counter, I can keep on thumbing it. Turn a 10-piece to a 20 quick. I got money busting out the money clip. Make a call and hit another lick. Someone get the money counter, I can keep on thumbing it. Eyes on the money, my brothers got my back. Streets moving funny, so I been holding strap. Not playing defense, we been on the attack. Plotting and scheming, how we gon' get it back. Designer all on you, but you can't buy the swag. No Miris, those foo-foo, I can see the tag. You can bet if I spendin' this, cause I get it back. I'm 5G, your dollar, I can see the lag. All I ever wanted was to have it all. Got close, never froze, had to risk it all. As a little boy, I wish I was a little tall. Never made the league, I find other ways to let me ball. Turn a 10-piece to a 20 quick. I got money busting out the money clip. Make a call and hit another lick. Someone get the money counter, I can keep on thumbing it. Turn a 10-piece to a 20 quick. I got money busting out the money clip. Make a call and hit another lick. Someone get the money counter, I can keep on thumbing it.